How's your day going? Good. There's tea. I'll serve tea. Is it ready? Serve me tea. Not I think I need this plus the steam. No, it's ready. What is yours? There? Tree. Oh.
I think it's the benefit.
Yeah, no, it's very good. We get the benefit of oak, which is so nice. Govinda. It's green and ginger. Maybe like red one, that red stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. My head is in the shade, what makes it completely black. Watch your head, I'm going to have to adjust this. How's it doing with the flame? It's summer after all. I was just exactly cut off and it was black, which is good. Yeah, I know. Everybody has tea at once. O Mangalam Gurudevaya Devye Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindebhyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankarachara Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Vande Gurum Paramparam. Let me look up one thing real quick. Maybe I have I have it. So today we're going to continue our reading from our discussion of the Kali Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of Goddess Kali. And we were going back and forth between the Sahasranama and Bhagavatam, but I've had the mood that I was breaking my rhythm, so we'll do this for a little bit, and then we'll maybe a few weeks the other. And also it's auspicious time. It's a very auspicious Shakti time right now. Whereas yesterday we celebrated Amavasya, and this Amavasya we had in our breakneck speed to get everything done and do the pujas, we forgot to think about, but that this is also the anniversary of when Ma was installed. We usually celebrate on kind of our annual function now we do on Phalaharini Kali Puja. But actually, it was this Kali Puja, this last Puja that we celebrated yesterday, that was when Ma was installed. So 23 years ago. What year was that?
24 years.
24 years ago, right? Ma Haradanji and Pranabji came, and we did that all-night puja. Actually, she was installed, awakened, probably just after midnight on Amavasya. So it's Ma's birthday, and we had forgot. We get balloons and a cake. It's hard to say. And Swami Chaitanya says your birthday. You're celebrating the birthday of the birthless and deathless Godhead. It seems ridiculous, but there's a mood that when they celebrate that type of thing. But Saru brought a beautiful cake, and I realized Ma arranged for her birthday cake. It was very sweet. But it's also this Amavasya, and it's from today on. It's also one of the 4 Navaratris. In the spring, the fall Navaratri, the 9-egg worship of the goddess, is very popular. We do it the big way, and everybody's doing. Then there's the spring Navaratri, that's Vishant Navaratri, not as popular but still important. And then there's 2 they call Gupta Navaratris. Gupta means because they're hidden or secret. Or they're not performed. They're not festivals, but they're time for spiritual practice and very significant. One is in January after Moni Amavasya, and then this one after this last Amavasya. So we're the first day of the summer Navaratri, and this is also called Varahi Navaratri. So it's dedicated to the goddess Varahi. We have, I think, a deity picture of her along the back wall there. You can see her if you want to. So she's there. I won't go into her story so much because in the Kali Sahasranama we got to her names. And we spent quite a bit of time giving the whole stories about this, how she ended up with a boar's head. You usually think a goddess would not have a pig's head, but there's a very deep meaning. And Varahi also has in the Tantric Shivita tradition. She's a general of the army of the goddess, a very interesting, important personality. So the sadhanas done at this time are dedicated to Varahi, this transformative goddess. So it's an important Devi time. And also we'll get to it. There's a Ambubachi festival in Assam that's going on right now. And that's Assam in the Kamakya temple, the most important. Can't say the most important, but it's a very important goddess temple. It's considered the foremost of the Shakti Pitams. Maybe we'll get to a name that we can bring her up again. But that's going on right now. Tens of thousands of people are going there to Assam right now. And it's a month-long festival, but it peaks right today, tomorrow. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow is the height of it. But the whole, a very important. This is a highly Shakta period of time. So the names so last week, let's see what names we did last week. So we were talking about these different 1,000 names of Kali. Each name is describing either one of her personalities, like Chinnamasta and Varahi. Her symbolism is, or her weapons, like swords and skulls and all that decoration that unique to Kali, this ghorarāvā. And so last week we finished. What was it? She who holds a human skull, right, or human severed head. That's part of her symbolism. And then it immediately went to Chinnamasta, so telling you whose head. We talked a lot about that. So it's not just any head. She holds her own head, right? And so this is a very deep significance, symbolic of our own transformation. We have to go beyond even our human awareness, and it will fit into this group of names also, because the head is, we often see as our identity and our thinking and our words is part of the head. So she's beyond that. She blows the top of it. We spent some weeks ago. We spent a lot of time on Chinnamasta, and we talked about Prachandika. So we just skimmed it last week. And then these beautiful names: Dakshina, Shamamala, Shama, Shanta. So Dakshina, she who's the goddess of the south. We talked a lot about that symbolism of Dakshina. And then Shamala and Shama, she who's dark and who's like this. So so now it moved into a very beautiful, one of my favorite names. Actually, my Kali in here, I have a Kali Murti in here, and her name is Digambari, right? And so this name, the next name is Digambari or digambarā. Jai Ma. I read today's verse. We're on verse 20. Names 139 through 146 for those following at home in your hymnals. Digambarā ghorarāvā, sṛkkāntā, raktavāhinī, ghorarāvā, śivāsaṁgī, visaṁgī, madanāturā. Digambara. So Digambara is often translated, means, in the simple means, it means naked. Right, so Kali is usually, of course, in the temples she's dressed in beautiful saris and cloth like that, but in all paintings you'll see her usually as naked, covered with skulls, and she's covered, but covered with not normal clothes, right? And so Digambara, it's a simple, but it means something very specific. Digambara, and so it means naked, and it's often translated as sky-clad, right? But actually, we can pull the word apart as digambara. Dig means directions. These are the digpalas. These are the directional deities. Last week we went through each of the 10 directional deities. So the directions are called drig or dig, and so she's wearing the directions. In other words, she's covered by her. She's wearing infinite directions in all directions. I mean, she's not covered. That's one meaning. Smoky fire today. More ghee, perhaps. The smoke and the sun's a nice combination. Thank you. How are you guys doing with smoke? Okay. So Digambara. So Ambara. So dig means directions, and Ambara means covering. That's one meaning. Ambara has several different meanings. So clad in the directions, but a direction also means covering. So Ambara means covering, and dig means direction. So she's covered her covering is that's saying that she's not covered, right? Her in every direction she's free. But dig also means when you make the directions when you make points and directions a way of containing. So in other words, another way. So Ambara also means sky. One of the means dress or covering. It also means sky. It means atmosphere. It means space, right? So dig means to contain something, but the things that are containing her is also space. So it's both. It has a reverse meaning, but means the same thing. It means she's infinite, unlimited. Shiva, so Kali is considered Digambarā. Shiva is also, one of his name is Digambarā. And Dattatreya, we have a picture of Guru Dattatreya, the original yogi. And usually he's often, like Kali, we dress her, and usually Dattatreya is also dressed in images and paintings. But actually one of his name is Digambarā. That he's an ancient yogi, and so he could have been an ancient yogi, that like Naga Babas that are walking around naked, perhaps, right? But one famous Naga Baba in a conversation with me, he says actually Naga or Digambara does not mean a naked man. It means someone who's unconditioned, someone who's unfettered, someone who's transcended limitations, who's beyond limitations of thought. So that's harder to do. Being naked is one thing, right? But be unfettered, an unfettered mind is much more difficult. So Guru Dattatreya, Digambara Dattatreya, all of his mantras describe him as like this. He's unfettered by any type of thinking. And so Kali is unfettered. Of course, she's not a human that has to transcend thinking. She represents that which is infinite. Digambara. Get here. Oops. Ma. The sun's slightly changing now. It's getting a little easier. I lost my page here. There's a way of looking at the goddesses we discussed in the past when you sent me some nice articles on hair, on symbolism of hair, academic articles, and it's related as like what does hair mean? Also, when a deity is dressed or not dressed, it has some meaning. When a person is dressed or not dressed, has some meaning. And when we're discussing the symbolism of Ma has long unbound hair, Mukta that has all kinds of cultural meaning when somebody has their hair unbound. And we told the story of Draupadi. We told the story of Draupadi, that she was being, in the Mahabharata, Draupadi was being disrobed very disrespectfully in public. And so this is something she's part of very high culture. She's the princess or queen almost, right? And due to this horrible situation, she was being disrobed. So being uncovered in public would have been the height of disrespect. Of course, we know the story. She prayed to Krishna, and Krishna gave her cloth. That's the general. Usually, we get that as the gist of the story: is how she surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna provided all kinds of cloth. But some people have thought about this because when she became very angry at what had happened. And so what she did, she unbound her hair. And so, and that Hindu society at the time, somebody with unbound hair was in a wild mood, right? Right. And also, when during women's menstruation, people would have their hair unbound, so they're ritually out of they're not part of the ritual culture. So she took herself out. She said, "I won't bind my hair until every one of them has been killed." Every one of so she had her hair unbound in connection to her being naked in public. There's some connection like that, right? So there's something. So Kali is being Digambara means she's outside also, just like her hair unbound and her, of course, all her symbols show that she's outside of culture. But by being naked, also she represents a goddess that's outside of human culture. And it's a little tricky when we start interpreting the meanings of goddesses to I don't know how to say it, to not anthropomorphically and not anthropologically, not because it's not that. Also mythologically, perhaps, I don't know. There's a danger. It may be helpful to kind of think about the things, but we don't. It's like this may not be at all what it means. That's people have seen patterns in goddesses, but that may not be what the goddesses actually are. There's a famous we mentioned him earlier. What was his name? Devadatta Patnaik. He's India's right now. He's a very famous mythologist in India. He's written lots of books on mythology. He's not actually a mythologist. He's a doctor by profession and a businessman medical doctor by education, and a businessman by profession, but his hobby is mythology. So he's a very interesting. He thinks about Hindu myth all the time and gives all kinds of. He sees through lines and organized like that. Not exactly academic. He has a few. We were talking earlier. He has a few, like, pet ideas that he interprets everything, but they're interesting ideas. And when I first read some of his books, I thought they're interesting ideas. One of the things he talks about is that the goddess, as the Divine Mother, the goddess is Prakriti. She is nature itself, right? And we know that nature is sacred, right? But nature is wild and dangerous. It's out of control, right? And so Kali is a jungle deity. This is how he's using that way of understanding. She's a jungle deity, and the jungle is wild. It's we what do we do as culture? We go into the jungle. This is like hunter-gathering society. We go into the jungle carefully. We hunt and gather, and come back to the village, to the safety of the village, right? But so we dependent upon nature, but we're not controlling nature, right? We're entirely controlled by her. Where we go carefully and come back. She's the source of everything, but she's dangerous, right? But as culture changes and societies changes, maybe people realize, we need plants and like that. But we can take the seeds that we're gathering, if we plant them within our walls of our town, we can, then they'll grow. We want them to grow. At the beginning of agriculture, right? So in a certain sense, that could be seen, if we were to be this daring, as the domestication. It's the domestication of nature, and therefore that's not getting the word right.
Domestication?
What is it?
Domestication.
Domestication. I think domestication of the goddess, of Prakriti, goddess Prakriti. So now, she's still divine, but now she's controlled by man. Right, not just man and humankind, but actually by men even. You can take it into that structure, right? So and though this is sometimes shown, he tries to show that it's by dressing the deity and by binding and binding the hair, so now she's divine, but she grows where we want her to grow. Right, a plant grows and we want it to grow. Animals give birth and we want them to give birth. Right, it's different than hunting, it's different than gathering. So it's an interesting idea of a way of interpreting, of binding nature, controlling nature. And so Kali, if we use the way of understanding, she's uncontrolled by man, right? And so even in so many names of Kali, one of her names is Vindhyavasini. She lives on the Vindhya mountain under the famous temple of Vindhyavasini. That's where the jungle, at one time a very ancient jungle, the very tribal, extremely tribal, even headhunter societies were there. That type of truly unconquered jungle, where it entered the plains and therefore the cities, right? And so people would go to the edge of the jungle and worship her. Right, and then they wouldn't go into the jungle; they go to the edge of the jungle, at the edge of the society, and there the wild goddess would be there, right? And there they'd make blood offerings and sacrifices like this. And so the jungle goddesses would often, if way of interpreting the forms of the Divine Mother that were in the forest, naked, unbound, and with a lot of blood symbolism, they'd be offered animal sacrifice. Where the goddesses that have been domesticated, if we're once again. Maybe a complete mistake to use this type of language, but to use that understanding, have been domesticated, their offerings change. They're offered cooked food, they're offered rice, they're offered fruit, right? And actually, instead, they give us milk, right? Where Kali drinks blood, not literally. I mean, we're not offering blood to Kali, but I'm talking in ancient times. She's a blood-drinking goddess, but Lakshmi and Saraswati, they're giving us blessings. Right, Kali is worshipped in the ancient times in a certain sense, with great fear. Right, so offerings would be made at the edge of the jungle or into the forest. And actually, there's many names. We told some stories a while back of very wild forms of Kali that she'd go into the jungle and come back with all her female spirits. It goes into that realm, and then Shiva had to appease her, and then offerings would be made. We've told many stories kind of justifying this, explaining this. But it's interesting that she's definitely, so in one sense, if she's nature, she's uncontrolled. If she's a concept, she's unthinkable, she's unbound. right? So we can take it at the simple level of she's Prakriti itself. She's Prakriti at the unbound, undomesticated, wild form, right? She's still supreme. We're not in control of her. But philosophically or spiritually, she's she's the divine mother. She's Brahman. She's conscious. That's unbound, free, without beyond limitations. And also naked. To use the digambarā, I was thinking earlier today. Naked does not just mean like when you cover yourself. It means you're hiding yourself, right? And it also means that you're limiting. You're protecting. You're limiting yourself, and you're also hiding yourself. So digambarā means that she's not limited, but she's also not hiding. She's fully revealed, fully manifest. Ma Kali Govinda Digambarā. So we'll go. These other names will merge into her a little bit. So Digambarā and Gora. This version doesn't have a good transliteration. Ghorarāvā. Ghorarāvā means, you already know. Ghorarāvā. Gora means tremendous sound, horrible or fierce sound. Ghorarūpa means, one of her names was Ghorādamstra, Ghorarūpa. We've had a lot of these names. She's fierce or tremendous or frightening. Here she's a tremendous sound. Now, this is a name that's like we were talking earlier. Most or every Sahasranama, except for one, repeats names. Right, like except Lita Sahasranama. Lita Sahasranama does not have any repetition name. And they say the reason for that is that the goddesses of the letters, the goddesses of the forms of Saraswati, the alphabet itself composed it, right? So when you have the goddess of language composing, there's not going to be a single. There's no mistake. There's no repetition. There's no cha to make things rhyme. The extra chas, and they're very long. There's one of the most names that are 16 syllable long names. It's considered very sophisticated. Other lists of names aren't quite as, I can't say sophisticated. The ideas are incredible, but they're not composed as sophisticated. And so, like a lot of names, a lot of hymns have more than one, the same name repeated. Even 100 names, the 100 names of Kali, 2 names are repeated. The 100 names of Ganesha, 2 names are repeated. 100 names of Lakshmi, 2 names are repeated, or 3 names are repeated. So maybe they're a mistake, maybe by copying over the years, something got copied wrong. I sometimes think, or these are ecstatic utterances. It's like I could say, Mother, you're beautiful, you're glorious, you're powerful, you're glorious, you're angry. It's like, and I've said, it may have, I maybe not composed it perfectly, but in my rapture, I've described something twice, right? But this is a name that comes twice, not only in the same hymn, it comes twice in the same verse, right? So it must be, I don't know, either it's really important. This translation, you pointed out, we have this one translation, from honest, I don't even know who it's by Premlata Paliwal. She was a disciple of Anandamayi Ma, and she gives 2 completely different translations of the same name. So if it's twice, it gets completely almost unrelated. Interesting. So what does she say? First one, she says, one who is a violent, super mundane sound. Super mundane. I think we don't use the word super that way anymore. Super, really super, a super is conditions a word that comes after. Like a superhero is like a really great hero, right? But here super means beyond, so beyond a hero, right? So beyond the mundane, so some sound that's beyond. And then the second time she uses, let's get to it. The cosmic sounded mother, Mahakali, symbolizing the sublime spirit of Om, permeating the entire universe at a time of dissolution. How the two got so well separated, like we don't know. All right. But in the Chandi, the same name is there, or the same description is there, ghorarāvā, and it's come several times. One is that when who's the first Shumba and Nishumba's army first attacks, right? And they see the Divine Mother, they attack. The first thing she says in a horrible sound, she goes, "Hum," and the entire army is reduced to ashes, right? So or when Kali first manifests, it says that she has a sword, and the sound of her sword, and a sound of her bell, the sound of her sword scraping the sky, the twang of her bowstring, shook. This horrible sound shook the very regions of the earth, right? So and uses ghorarāvā, this tremendous sound. And so in that story, in the commentaries, we've discussed that in our Chandi talks, but from the commentaries, that's always seen as being representing mantra. And like she says, the mantra Om, the sound Om, we really don't think of the sound Om as horrible and terrible, right? But we say Hum, we don't die also, right? But there may be something, there's impure thoughts and like that could be destroyed. Then such sounds may be are tremendous. And also the word horrible may not be